be honest, I'm more motivated now than ever. It's a bigger chip on my shoulder. The league messed up.
Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning Five here on Friday, April 26th, 2019. I am Dave Biddle, very happy to be joined by Patrick Murphy. Bucknutters out there, that sound you heard to begin the show was none other than Dwayne Haskins. And just to repeat there, he said the league done messed up as far as Dwayne slipping to the 15th pick of the draft to the Washington Redskins. And it wasn't just Patrick that he slipped to 15. It was that the New York Giants, who are being skewered by just about everybody this morning, took Daniel Jones 6th overall. So, hey, at least Haskins gets to play his pro ball like pretty close to where his parents live now. But still, man, that was pretty surprising. Just your reaction to that whole situation.
I'm not sure that the league done messed up. I think the Giants done messed up, and we were wondering whether or not Dave Gettleman would do this. We've talked privately about whether or not he would, make the right decision and we thought was the right decision at least, and take Haskins. What surprised me the most was that if they were going to go quarterback at that spot, it wasn't Haskins. And I think that's a lot of overthinking things. That he's obviously a guy who's not ready to start right away, but that's not a franchise that needs a quarterback right away. I don't think that Eli's ready to step away from the game, and Haskins I think would have been a great fit there. If Haskins needed any more motivation after the end of this past college football season, where he goes to the Heisman Trophy celebration and barely gets talked about, and then here's for the last few months all the positive and then the negative talk about him, he certainly got it by that. But I do think that the Redskins will be a good fit for him. I think it makes a lot of sense there. Like you said, just like it would have been with New York, it's kind of a homecoming. His family's close. I looked it up. I think his high school was 27 minutes from or 27 miles or something from where the Redskins play their home games at FedEx Field. So he'll be close to home. His family will be there. Obviously, he was a guy who was committed to Maryland initially before he decided to play at Ohio State. So as he talked about last night, he'll have a chance finally to play in front of friends and family. And I think he is excited about that. I know I saw on Twitter some Redskin fans were not pleased with the comments he initially made along with what you played. Sounded like he wasn't grateful to be taken in the first round. And I don't think it was that at all. I think he's just disappointed that he slipped as far as he did. But when he spoke with the Redskins people later, it sounded much more positive. So I think he's excited. I just think, a guy like that expected to be a top 10 pick wasn't. And in the moment, he made the comment like that the league done messed up. And now he's got a chance to prove that the league, in fact, done messed up.
Yeah, and I think a big part of it was I think he was okay swallowing that he was going to be the second quarterback taken in this draft, even though he felt like he was the best quarterback because of the fit with the Cardinals and Kyler Murray. It was hard for him to even get past Daniel Jones being taken ahead of him. So I think it wasn't just falling to 15. It was the Daniel Jones factor and Haskins being the third quarterback taken in this draft. What I want to ask you is, do you think there's something else? Because I keep getting asked this question, and do you think there's something fans don't know, that there's something more about Dwayne? Because we keep talking him up as just he checks all the boxes, on and off the field, checks all the boxes. Not as far as he's not going to. Sorry, Stephen A. Smith. Although Stephen A. Smith did apologize for this, he's not going to run. He's not going to win games with his legs. But as far as pretty much everything a star quarterback needs to do, he checks all the boxes on and off the field, in my opinion. Do you think there's more to the story here? Do you think that led to him slipping?
No, I don't understand it. I mean, the weirdest thing to me about this whole process has been the two-sidedness of talking about these quarterbacks. When you talk about Dwayne, when people talk about Dwayne, the knock is he only played 1 year. Well, Kyler only played 1 year too, but you never hear about that. When you talk about some of the other guys, that they, arm strength and things like this, all stuff that I thought Dwayne showed. I didn't watch a ton of Duke games this past year, but when I did start to look at Daniel Jones a little bit more, I didn't see anything that I couldn't, also make an argument with Dwayne Haskins. There was talk about the other day about stuff coming out about his personality. We covered Dwayne, this year and in the last 2 years when he was available a little bit in recruiting. He's a great kid. He comes from a great family, so I don't see any red flags there. Obviously was groomed by Ryan Day, who spent time, coaching quarterbacks in the NFL. The stats speak for themselves. So I don't know. There seems to always be a quarterback in the draft that you look at and are surprised that he went a little lower. And, sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. They being the NFL personnel. I think last year you and I both expected Sam Darnold to go higher than he did. And, he had a decent rookie season, but not a great rookie season. So we'll see what Dwayne does. I like I said before, I really think that it would be better for him if he can, sit for a year. It'll be interesting with the Redskins because obviously, for those who don't follow it, Alex Smith suffered that compound fracture in his leg in week 11 last year, then had an infection, and there was concern about whether he's going to play again. It sounds like he will, but probably not in 2019. Case Keenum, they recently acquired, kind of a veteran traveler backup that can serve as a starter. They also have Colt McCoy. So, there are some options there that Dwayne won't have to necessarily step in right away. But if he goes out and shows through camps and stuff that he's ready, he may be the day one starter if Alex Smith isn't ready. And I'm not sure that's the best thing for him, but you got to trust that the coaching staff will do what they think's best for the franchise.
And Nick Bosa goes second overall, and no one's talking about it. No big deal. Just goes second overall. And it's the first time in the modern era of the draft that Ohio State's had a player go number 2 overall. They've had, if you go way back when the draft was different, they kind of had a couple guys go number 2 overall, but it wasn't like today's draft. It's convoluted. I won't get into it. But, since the 1950s, when kind of the current model of the draft was adopted, Ohio State's never had a player go number 2 overall. They've had number 1 picks, number 3 picks, number 4 picks, on and on and on. But Bosa being the first number 2 pick goes to the San Francisco 49ers. Obviously, I think he's going to be a stud if he can stay healthy. No surprise there.
No, not at all. I think that may have been a bigger surprise had he not gone number 2. I think we'd all resigned to the fact that Kyler Murray was going to go first overall, and we can debate whether or not we think that, but we'll save that for our friends in Oklahoma and out in Arizona to talk about. But yeah, Nick, he's proven what he can do. I think the fact that you have a guy who rarely started for Ohio State, given the depth of talent at the position his first 2 years, and then obviously the injury in the third game of the season in 2018, the fact that he's still taken with the number 2 pick, was thought to be the number 1 pick before the season even started, just shows what a talent he is. And they highlighted it on some of the coverage last night, the family that they have, and what Joey has done, what John Bosa did in his career. It's the second time ever in NFL history that a family has had a father and 2 sons taken in the first round of the NFL draft, and the other one was the Mannings, and we know that turned out pretty well. So the Bosa family has obviously produced a lot of talent, Nick being the latest, and I think he's going to be very good out there. San Francisco, has a lot of talent. That's a team, as Nick said in his article that Steve put on Bucknuts, that that's a team that normally doesn't pick as high as this. Obviously, some injuries and whatnot, but watch out for that team this year. Nick is going to be a great addition. They're in the same division as my Rams, so as much as I was happy to see Nick Bosa number 2 overall, I'm not happy to watch my team play against him.
Yeah. You better watch out, Jared Goff.
Yeah.
He'll be coming for you. Just like I remember that Cotton Bowl, USC's offensive line wasn't very good, but Bosa was just destroying whoever he lined up against in the Cotton Bowl, and Sam Darnold just had no chance in that game.
Yeah, he may have been the reason Sam Darnold wasn't a higher draft pick because of what they did to him in that one.
Browns got it right. I thought you touched on it earlier. I really thought that Sam Darnold was going to be the number 1 overall pick last year, and I thought he should be the number 1 overall pick. And the Browns, they were right. I think Sam Darnold's still going to be really good in the NFL. I thought he was solid as a rookie with the Jets, but looks like the Browns got that right with Baker Mayfield. So we'll see. Maybe we'll be wrong. Maybe I'll be wrong about Dwayne Haskins and Daniel Jones. Maybe, we'll see what happens. But, rounds. And one more thing about Bosa, it's pretty cool. We're going to look back on this as probably one of the better defensive drafts we've seen in a while. And he was the first offensive player taken in this defensive loaded draft. So I think that's a pretty good feather in his cap, in addition to being taken number 2 overall. Final thing. So, rounds 2 and 3 commence tonight. Rounds 4 and 7 will happen on Saturday. Let's look at tonight. Draymond Jones. I think Paris Campbell's going to go pretty early in the second round. He had a chance. Both those guys had a chance to be first-round picks, although I think there was a better chance for Paris because of how fast he ran. Then in the third round, Terry McLaurin, maybe Michael Jordan in the third round. Just what do you expect to see tonight?
Yeah, I think those guys are all possibilities. Paris for sure. I was sitting there waiting with our story ready to post just in case Paris was selected towards the end of the first round last night. I think any of those guys, especially the receivers, are I did yesterday the friendship that they have had and developed at Ohio State and how they plan on continuing that. But in looking back at their careers, it's pretty amazing. And you can put Johnny Dixon in there too. Obviously, he dealt with knee injuries, but where they kind of came from. I mean, all 3 were 4-star guys, so I don't want to make it sound like they were guys that came out of nowhere. But Paris came in as more of an athlete. Wasn't really sure what his future looked like. He was still getting knocks about his hands and his route running, even after this last season where he had over 1,000 receiving yards. And then NFL scouts start to see things at the combine and Ohio State's pro day, and he moves up draft boards. Terry McLaurin, a guy who had to fight for his, ends up being a very good player, and someone Urban Meyer talked about naming his next son after, joking in that way. And then Johnny Dixon with the knee injuries, he was the highest rated receiver, I think, in that 2014 class. And everyone thought he would be a star. And he has to fight through the arthritis in his knees over his first few years at Ohio State, and eventually gets it figured out enough to be a factor for the Buckeyes and will likely be a draft pick. He'll probably be a day 3 guy, I imagine. But, I think all those guys are going to make NFL teams happy. And, just kind of a cool story how they all kind of came up together and worked their way through. And we'll talk about KJ Hill next year in the same light. He's a part of that mix as well. And this stuff from Patrick that hasn't produced a ton of wide receivers. So,
yeah. And you did not mess up. You done not messed up.
I done not messed up.
Good job. You done not messed up like the league did. So great stuff from Patrick Murphy. I appreciate it, Patrick. And thanks to all the listeners out there for tuning into the show. I appreciate that as well. Hope everyone has a great day and a great weekend. Let's hear the Buckeye swag, best damn band in the land.